Kamisato Ayaka. Genshin Impact's highest damage dealing cryo unit as of 3.5 is now making her return very soon. And today, our goal here is to definitively rank and explain Ayaka's strongest weapon options, where I take the total of cutting damage ticks as the point of comparison on a theoretically 100% potential Ayaka, which means max rolls on everything with ER and attack balanced with crit value. So with that being said, the buffs I am using for all of my damage calculations are as follows. Mono Burst and Omen at level 10, Kazuha buff with a reasonable 750 elemental mastery, Noblesse, and VV Shred. Oh yes, and there's also Cryo Resonance with Dayona and Ayaka being together, and Blizzard Slayer goes without saying. I won't be talking about all 5-star weapons for Ayaka, as some weapons generally won't work at all with her, such as Freedom Sworn or the Key of Kahajanisit. The 5-star swords I'll be including in this ranking are the Mist Splitter, the Primordial Jade Cutter, Summit Shaper, Lithofoliar, and Haran, as well as Aquila Favonia and Skyward Blade. We're going to move on to the 4 stars now. There's not really many options for the 4 stars here. You have the free-to-play Amenoma, and the Black Sword and Blackcliff are paywalled by the Star Glitter Shop and Battle Pass. And I'm also going to add in the Harbinger of Dawn here because it's a really good 3-star option if you really need it. And if you're just generally starting out in Genshin, it's a good pickup. Okay, here I lay before you my super high effortly made ranking board and this corresponding chart of Ayaka's damage output during her bursts using these weapons. But don't let that trick you. There are other factors that will play into the ranking system. Factors like accessibility, how easy it is to build, and of course, yes, the damage. So with that being said, we are now going to get what we all know and love, the Mist Splitter, out of the way. We're going to put it at the top of the list. And here I am going to give you its total damage output in a typical rotation for an Ayaka. It's going to be a skill burst N2C done 3 times, as being shown in the clip here. That will lead to a total of 1,250,000 damage. However, it will be a little bit less than that, less assuming buffs run out or you miss Mona's ult or something. A typical Ayaka hyper carry rotation will in fact do about 1 million damage. Of course, hyper carry on-field Ayaka isn't the only way to play her. You can also do a quick swap burst damage type of play style, but I won't be going over that. Now, Jade Cutter is going to open up the discussion of crit rate weapons being ran on Blizzard Slayer. To keep it short, you won't want to pick crit rate weapons over the crit damage ones on Blizzard Slayer because of all of the passive crit rate Blizzard Slayer gives you. It's also a lot harder to build a good Blizzard Slayer set using a crit weapon. Think about it like this. This is a typical artifact. 4 stats already. You have crit rate and crit damage, right? It's going to be a lot harder for this artifact to roll like this than it would be if it were to roll like this. That's because it's harder to put all of your eggs in one basket, while in this one's other case, you're putting your eggs in 2 baskets, which is crit rate and crit damage, instead of just trying to load it all up into one stat, which is going to be a lot harder to do. While the Jade Cutter isn't more so of a damage pick when it comes to 5 stars, its value comes from being able to run 2-piece Noblesse and a 2-piece Flex. With Ayaka being an abyss clearing machine, she can afford to opt out of Blizzard Slayer if you don't plan on farming or picking up Mist Splitter at all. If you're planning to save your primos, then this works. So this weapon totals out at about 1,126,000 damage on Ayaka on a full buff rotation, assuming they don't run out. Alright, the next 3 stooges, Haran, Foliar, and Summit Shaper, are going to perform generally about the same as Jade Cutter on 4 Blizzard. It's going to be about over 1 million damage as well. So they're still good picks if you have them. It's just that not many players currently have them since they're newer. And I'm assuming if you pulled them, they're probably for your Alhaitham or your Ayato. You might run them in your Abyss. So taking away their best in slot might not be your best choice. Aquila and Skyward Blade are probably the 2 worst 5 stars you could use on Ayaka if you have nothing else. They still work, but I'd really recommend not using them. but these two weapons are bordering that 1 million damage mark or damage rotation. Sometimes Skyward Blade even dips under that 1 million output. So I could consider Aquila to be used still. Fine, that's okay. Physical damage won't be used, but it has high base attack. But Skyward Blade is going to fall a lot under even a bunch of the 4 stars here. Just because some of the 4 stars have really tailored passives or really good substats that would work a lot better on Ayaka than Skyward Blade, unfortunately. Copium tier. Now, Ayaka is great because the 4-star options we have on her are quite competitive, which makes her that much more budget friendly. Let's start with pretty much the only viable free-to-play 4-star weapon on Ayaka. That's the Amenoma Kageyuchi. What this sword lacks in crit rate stats makes up for it for an incredible passive at high refinements. To put it into perspective, all of Ayaka's stat distribution will require 125% energy recharge to be efficient. But with this passive at R5, that 25% ER can go to increasing your crit value instead. It's not bad. Moving on, the Black Sword on paper seems like a good weapon option for her. While yes, Ayaka can make use of it with enough effort farming the Blizzard set, ultimately its crit rate main stat is what's holding it back on top of its difficulty in obtaining higher refinements. It will take you 5 months of Battle Pass, folks. Not many people out there are willing to wait half a year to get her weapon ready. Another 4-star that is locked behind a premium currency is going to be the Blackcliff Longsword. And let me tell you, running a high refinement Blackcliff is well worth the premium currency spent. Just look at these damage numbers. It beats out most 5-star picks, albeit having to activate a difficult passive. Now, to some people, that's going to be tough to activate, absolutely. You are able to just ignore the passive, but your damage will look like this. Quite average. At that point, players may start opting for the Amenoma for its utility. Now, don't think I forgot. Yeah, I mentioned the Harbinger of Dawn earlier as well. Don't be surprised that this weapon is copium. If you're new, yes, this weapon's good for a 3-star, but most definitely any of the 4 stars I listed will do much better. However, if you are lacking in crit stats because you don't have the artifact sets or you don't have access to 5-star artifacts yet, this weapon will make it up for you. Now, my thoughts on Ayaka's weapon choices. Mist Splitter is not necessary for Ayaka because she is just a cryo powerhouse. But if you have the means, so be it, go get it. Definitely run Jade Cutter and Summit Shaper if your artifact stats allow it. Pick Blackcliff if you are looking for damage, and Amenoma for comfort and drip.